All right, so today we're diving into a pretty mind-bending idea from a book called Majesty in Monotony. And it starts with a simple thought. Take a look at the most ordinary thing near you right now. Maybe it's your coffee cup, or even the screen you're watching this on. The book's whole premise is that those mundane objects are connected by an unbroken thread all the way back to the very birth of the universe.
So let's just jump right into the core concept, because it is a total perspective shifter. The book's big argument is that we're not just some passive observers in the universe. No, get this. The very atoms that make you, well, you, the calcium in your bones, the iron in your blood, they were all forged inside stars that exploded billions of years ago. It's not just poetry, we are quite literally made of stardust.
And that simple, powerful statement, that's the foundation for the entire book. Think about what that means. It means that every single thought, every feeling you have is part of a 13.8 billion-year-old cosmic story. Your small, everyday life isn't separate from the grand scale of the universe. It's a direct link to the grandest story ever told. Okay, so that's a pretty huge claim, right? I mean, how does a book even begin to build that case? Let's take a look at how the author starts to break it all down. Right off the bat, you can see the author's mission is, well, it's incredibly ambitious. We're not talking about just listing off a bunch of interesting facts from different subjects. The real goal here is to weave everything together, everything you can see or think or know, into one single cohesive story of our existence. So it's not meant to be just another encyclopedia full of facts. The real intent is to give you a kind of framework, a way to navigate our incredibly complex world. It's much more like a map, really, a guide that helps you see how all the different pieces actually connect. So if it's a tapestry, what are the threads? What does the author actually use to weave this whole thing together? Well, let's look at the foundational pillars of the argument. The entire argument rests on what the book calls the pillars of knowledge. And what's cool is how they're framed. They aren't treated like separate, boring school subjects. Instead, they're presented as these powerful, essential tools. You got history, which gives us the context, knowing what's going on. Then there's science, which is all about observing the world around you. And finally, mathematics, the language that connects it all. And this quote about math really nails the book's whole perspective. See, each pillar is framed not as some academic chore you have to get through, but as a genuine superpower. So math isn't just a bunch of numbers on a page. It's the underlying code of the cosmos, the language of nature itself. It's what allows us to understand everything from why a sunset looks the way it does to the expansion of the entire universe. But okay, a map is only useful if you know who it's for, right? So who is this cosmic map for? The preface is actually very, very specific about who the intended audience is. And, it's not just for academics or scholars. The author is really speaking to anyone who's ever felt, a little lost. Anyone who's trying to make sense of their place in this big, beautiful, and sometimes very confusing world. It really zeroes in on two specific mindsets. On one hand, you've got the student. Maybe they're feeling a bit apathetic, searching for a real purpose. A feeling, by the way, that the author admits he went through himself. And on the other hand, you have the educator. And that could be a parent, a homeschooler, a teacher, someone who's trying to build a solid foundation of understanding for the next generation. And here's really the key takeaway. The so what of it all. This is not just some abstract philosophical exercise. The book frames this broad kind of understanding as the single most practical tool you can have for a prosperous life. Not just for you as an individual, but for society as a whole. But there's a catch. Before you can truly appreciate all this majesty in the mundane, everyday stuff, the book argues that we first have to confront a pretty fundamental and maybe a little uncomfortable truth. And wow, this is a really powerful anchor for the whole idea. The book suggests that our finite time here, the fact that we don't live forever, is precisely what makes our existence so precious. So acknowledging our own mortality isn't something that diminishes our lives. In fact, it's the very thing that infuses our limited time with a sense of urgency, with real purpose, and with deep meaning. And all of this brings us to the final invitation the author makes in the preface. This is where the focus shifts from the universe's grand story to your story. So the book isn't positioned as just something you read. It's presented as a tool, a way for you to understand the absolutely incredible, almost impossible series of events that led directly to you, sitting right here, right now, thinking about all of this. And that, right there, is the powerful, urgent call to action. It's a challenge that's meant to leave you with this incredible mix of awe and responsibility. The story of the universe, it turns out, isn't some distant, abstract topic. It's your personal origin story. So in the end, this whole overview isn't really about giving you all the answers. It's about offering a starting point. It suggests that the real key to understanding ourselves is to first understand our cosmic origins. The journey of discovery, well, that's up to you. So what will you discover in your cosmic history?